Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today we're going to take a look at another of Mattel's new DC Comics Multiverse 4-inch action figures. This figure that we're looking at today is the Deadshot figure from the Batman Arkham Origins video game. And like with all the figures in this first wave, the figure comes in this standard blister card type packaging, very reminiscent of the old DC Universe Classics line for their 6-inch scale DC figures. At the very top of the packaging we have labels of adult collector and highly detailed and authentic. And then below that we have the DC Comics Multiverse logo and the Batman Arkham Origins logo in a red border. And then below that we have a picture of Deadshot from the video game holding a sniper rifle, which does not appear to be included with the actual figure, unfortunately. And then we have the figure itself displayed on the card back so that you can clearly see what you're getting when you buy it. The card back is using yellows and oranges and red highlights throughout, and then you have the Deadshot name down at the bottom, along with under the video game image saying Batman Arkham Origins Deadly Assassin. For the back of the packaging, again pretty standard. We have the video game image again holding that sniper rifle, which apparently is not included with the actual figure. Then we have some brief stats for the character. Real name Floyd Lawton, occupation assassin, specialty expert marksman, employer Black Mask. And then we have a brief snippet about the Multiverse line, along with the Batman Arkham Origins logo above that. And then we have the same three figures that are shown on all the card backs for this first series, the Batman, Mr. Freeze, and DC Comics Azrael. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. Deadshot here, like with the Bane figure that we looked at yesterday, has a pretty decent sculpt. It's got some nice detailing with the eyepiece on the mask, which looks pretty good. He's got some bullets on his shoulder. His jacket is sculpted pretty nicely to look kind of leathery like in the video game and everything. He's got wrist guns, though there's not a lot of detail on the guns as far as the paint apps. It's all basically black, so it doesn't stand out very well. He's got the little red dot on his eye. And then for the pants, he's got some knee pads, and then black boots. So, and he's got like a satchel or something on his sculpted on some type of pouch sculpted on his belt. So overall, the detail's not bad. I mean, we're not talking about super highly detailed, but at the same time, for a 4-inch figure, I think the sculpting details are pretty decent with this line so far. And the paint apps, for the most part, you know, I would have liked to maybe seen some more detailing with the paints on the wrist guns, so they stood out a little bit more. But for the most part, you know, I can't complain too much about the detailing with these figures. They're pretty decent. Now again, as I mentioned before, there are no accessories with this figure, which is a little disappointing, especially since the packaging shows a picture of him holding a sniper rifle. It would have been nice if they had included at least one weapon. But no, nothing, no accessories. Now, he does have one hand sculpted, so open, so if you have a weapon lying around from another 4-inch scale figure, a G.I. Joe, Marvel Universe or something, then he can at least hold the weapon, but you'll have to supply your own weapons with this figure because he comes with nothing other than his wrist guns that are sculpted on. But he does have the open hand, so he does have the ability to at least hold a weapon in one of his hands. The other hand's sculpted closed, so you're only going to get him holding one weapon at a time. He's also like Bane. He's got the treads on his boots, and he's got 2 peg holes. So scale-wise, again, I think Mattel has done a pretty good job with the scale on these figures. Deadshot here comes in at just maybe a hair over 4 inches tall. So he's about the same height as Batman, the Batman figure in this line. So I think they do a pretty good job. And then here he is with the Bane figure, who is taller than both Deadshot and Batman. So I think they did a pretty good job with the scale with these guys. It seems to be pretty accurate. And then here he is next to the DC Collectibles Injustice Deathstroke figure. The DC Collectibles figures seem to be just a little bit shorter than the Mattel ones, but still, you know, I think for the most part you could put these 2 lines together if you wanted to. And then here he is next to the Marvel Universe one of the Punisher figures from the Marvel Universe line. Again, Punisher's maybe a little bit taller than Deadshot here, but again, I think the scales are close enough that, you know, the lines would fit in pretty nicely with one another. So articulation, you know, as I pointed out with the Bane and Batman reviews, this is where this line is the most lacking. Pretty basic articulation, unfortunately. It's close to what we see with the DC Collectibles 4-inch line, even those have more articulation than these, and certainly not really on par with what we see with the Hasbro's Marvel Universe line. But let's just go over the articulation points, and again, basically the exact same articulation points that we saw with both Batman and Bane. So doesn't seem to be much variation as far as articulation goes in this line. So Deadshot here, you can look left and right, but no up and down movement. He's got the standard ball hinge joints for the elbow, so he's got good rotation with the arms. Single hinged elbows, but he can bend his elbow pretty good. And then swivel wrists, but no hinges or anything on the wrists. For the midsection, no type of torso joint at all, but we do have the swivel at the waist. And then for the legs, he can do the splits, because they've got the hinge joints there, and unlike Bane, he can put his legs forward pretty good and backwards. So Batman and Deadshot here have that movement, whereas Bane, he really didn't have much forward and backward movement with the legs. Then you have a swivel right above the knee, and then a single hinge knee joint, so he can bend his knee about that much. And with this one, the knee pads kind of hide the joint. And then, unfortunately, no type of ankle articulation at all. So no pivot or anything. So that about does it for my review of this figure. Overall, you know, I think the design, you know, the sculpting and the paint apps are decent. Again, this isn't really a high price point line, so that's one advantage this line has going for it. You know, at mass retail, I think these figures are going to go for around $7 or $8. At the specialty shops, they seem to be going around $10 or $11. So we're not talking about $15 3¼ inch scale line figure, but still, I would like to see, you know, some more articulation, especially since, you know, Mattel bills this as an adult collector line. More articulation, more accessories. You know, most of the figures either have minor accessories or no accessories at all. You know, Deadshot would be nice if they gave him at least one weapon. One gun or something. You know, the sniper rifle they show in the picture would be nice. So, you know, a little bit added articulation with things like ankle joints, hinged neck so he can look up and down, and an ab crunch of some type would be nice, and added accessories. But otherwise, I think, you know, the figures look decent. I'm not a huge fan of the this look for Deadshot, but it does seem to be accurate for the video game. So I can't complain too much there. So that's my review. I hope you enjoy it, and until next time, you know, please feel free to comment, like this video, tell us what you think about the figures, if you're planning on picking them up or not. And until next time, I'll catch you later.